Fratmore gang, perhaps one of the most depraved individuals in the Epstein files is British Prince Andrew. Now, he has been stripped of a lot of his titles. He has been absolutely disgraced. He dragged himself through an absolutely embarrassing BBC interview to try and deny being involved with Epstein. And he really said some of the most brazen stuff you could possibly imagine. You know, there was rumors that he was sweating all over one of these girls. He said, "Oh no, I had an injury. I can't even sweat." He thinks that we're so stupid. So in this video, I'm going to break down to you the full story of Prince Andrew and his involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. And I'm also going to touch on his wife, Sarah Ferguson, now ex-wife known as Fergie, for her role in propping up this disgusting pred. Okay. So this came out recently, and this is definitely a big just embarrassment burger for Prince Andrew, who basically has just, you know, he's just tarnished his reputation on a level that I didn't even think was possible. Now, you know, there's been a bunch of new emails that have come out, and like he's also been kind of implicated in this whole situation for quite a long time. This series of photographs was released, and it showed Prince Andrew in a compromising position with what looks like a young girl. We can't see their face, but this, you know, we know what's going on, all right? He ain't even got his socks on, okay? He leaning down, he touching on her, he looking up, touching her sides. It's despicable. We know what's going on, okay? You got people in the comment, okay? They're saying the feet up on the table is extra disturbing, just like this is a regular occurrence. Wait a minute. Is that could be Giuffre, it could be someone else, but people are in the back kicking back like this is a normal thing. A prince of the royal family in England with a woman on the ground groping her up. That's just a normal thing. Okay. That's just a normal thing. These people are evil. Okay. I remember when these claims emerged years ago, the Queen tried to silence them to protect Andrew. I don't think he'll ever really be charged or held accountable for what he did. Now, I know that it unfortunately does feel like, you know, he's never going to face justice, and maybe it's not enough, but he has been absolutely shunned by the royal family, fortunately. Okay. Now, the dispute between Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein, okay, not the dispute, the relationship that eventually turned into a dispute, but it seemed like he always had his back, okay? But their relationship seems to date all the way back to 1999. Despite the royals' previous claims of a more limited association, they weren't even locked in like that. They was locked in for decades. Look at this.
This is a story that goes back 2 decades. Robert Giuffre claims she was introduced to Prince Andrew by Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, in 2001 and was forced to have sex with him. She was 17 at the time. She alleges they met 2 other times. Prince Andrew has always strenuously denied these accusations and says he never even met her. In 2008, Epstein is found guilty of soliciting underage sex. Andrew claims he severs all ties with him in 2010. In February 2011, this picture of Andrew with Robert Giuffre is published.
It's funny, isn't it, right? I severed all ties, never hung out with him. Whoops. You're in the crib with a minor, okay, and the madam is crazy.
And a day later, Andrew emails Epstein saying, "Keep in close touch and we'll play some more soon." In 2014, Robert Giuffre first alleges abuse by Andrew in US court, and the next year the Metropolitan Police interviews her about the alleged assault in London, but they decide not to investigate. In 2019, Epstein is arrested on new sex trafficking charges and later takes his own life. The Met Police reopens its case following his death, but again decide not to investigate. This is also when Prince Andrew speaks with BBC Newsnight and denies having sex with or remembers ever meeting Robert Giuffre. 2 years later, she files a civil lawsuit against the prince. That year, Channel 4 News also reports claims from 6 women who make allegations against Epstein and Maxwell in the UK. The Met Police look again and again say they will not investigate. Maxwell is sentenced to prison in the US at the end of that year. In 2022, Andrew reaches a financial settlement with Robert Giuffre, but makes no admission of liability.
Don't know her, never met her, here's a few million, whoopsie daisy.
He stops using the title His Royal Highness. But with this memoir, yet more questions about Andrew's actions as well as that of the police. The Met say they are now actively looking at claims that back in 2011, when the photo with Robert Giuffre was published, Andrew asked his police protection officer to obtain personal information on her. And Channel 4 News has calculated that between 1997 and 2012, Epstein's private jet flew in and out of UK airports on more than 50 separate occasions, with some flights listing Robert Giuffre in their manifest. Will this be investigated too?
Absolutely not. There won't be any investigation. The police were literally working to protect Prince Andrew, not for the girl. And unfortunately, she did pass away. And rest in peace to her, man. Absolutely just despicable how that all went down. Now, following Epstein's arrest, okay, in 2008, right? And we talked about this in the previous couple of videos that I did. He was arrested for, they bartered the charges down to soliciting prostitution from a minor, okay? But look, we know what Epstein was up to, all right? And 2 years after that, they're hanging out. They're cheesing it up. They were photographed taking a walk in New York Central Park in 2010, outside together. How dumb do you have to be, okay? So, Jeff, you got 2 10s for a 20? Thanks for posting this. Let's not forget about this little shit of a royal who's gone very, very quiet, okay? What's the crop looking like this year? This was in 2010. They were most likely trying to get their story straight here, as Epstein had already been sentenced on charges back in 2007. So, Jeff, I'm looking for 26-year-olds. You don't need me to find a 26-year-old. You must have heard me wrong. I want 20 times 6-year-olds, okay? Crazy. Prince All right, we ain't even gonna do all that. You see, Jeff, now do you understand why 14 is too old? Here's a higher quality and less cropped version of the photo. Hanging out. Y'all need to get a jacket that fits you. Okay. That's what look at the state of his hands. Poking out this jacket. For a man that was an international multi-millionaire S-pest, you would think he would at least have a jacket that fits him. But it looks like they're actually wearing matching jackets. Maybe he gave him this jacket. Maybe this is a S-side prevention jacket. I don't know. But anyway, as time went on, okay, and victims begun to speak out, that's when Prince Andrew sat down for his now infamous BBC Newsnight interview to address or sidestep the allegations. And this was an absolute car crash horror show. Here's just a little taster of it.
I have no recollection of ever meeting this lady. None whatsoever.
See, again, and I want you guys to understand, okay, a lot of the stuff that we're talking about in this Epstein case, we're talking about people that are so arrogant, that do the most awful things. They're rich. They're surrounded by yes men. They've never had anyone tell them no in their lives. They think they can bend the universe to their will. These guys are so arrogant. They think you're dumb. They think everybody's dumb. They think they're the smartest person in the room because of all the yes men around them. This is a moron who thinks that he can convince everyone. He said, I'm going to sit down for the interview and I'm going to lie and I'm going to tell everyone what it is. And it's just all going to go away. I'm that smart. He's dumb. He's dumb as fuck. Okay. And if you look at this interview, you can tell he thought that he was going to convince everyone. And some of the claims that he made in this interview are so ridiculous. No one would ever believe them. And the fact that he even thought he could convince you that this was the case just goes to show how foolish and ignorant this person really is. Look at the state of it.
Don't remember meeting her.
No.
So you're absolutely sure that you're at home on the 10th of March.
Yeah.
She was very specific about that night. She described dancing with you and you profusely sweating, and that she went on to have bath, possibly.
There's a slight problem with the sweating because I have a peculiar medical condition, which is that I don't sweat, or I didn't sweat at the time.
She provided.
Had a peculiar medical condition where I don't sweat. Well, I didn't sweat at the time. I can sweat now because you can see I'm sweating. I'm sweating one out in this interview. But back then, on that day, I couldn't sweat. This is somebody that's never been told no. A literal prince. He is a literal prince. He's been grown up. No one's ever told him no. No one's ever held him to account. No one's ever even told him the truth about himself. He is a moron. Crazy that people like this even exist.
I did a photo of the two of you together.
Yes.
Your arm was around her waist.
Yes.
You've seen the photo.
I've seen the photograph.
How do you explain that?
I can't. Because I have absolutely no memory of that photograph ever being taken.
Do you recognise yourself in the photo?
Yeah, it's pretty difficult not to recognise yourself.
Your friend suggested that the photo is fake.
I think it's, from the investigations that we've done, you can't prove whether or not that photograph is faked or not, because it is a photograph of a photograph of a photograph. I have no...
You think we're so dumb, all right? I didn't sweat at the time. Sounds legit to me. His eyes tell it differently. The way he shakes his head reminds me of a 6-year-old who's wet the bed but swears it wasn't him. His ego being embarrassed by the sweating is what outed him. Doesn't know who she is, but gives her 12 million, lying through his teeth. Unbecoming, he was an S offender. People are sheeple. We pay for this man's lifestyle. Okay. I can explain the photograph. It's because he's lying. Okay. No recollection that she was silenced with an 11 million. If someone lied about me, I would fight to the end of the earth to clear my name. Wouldn't pay just a little cheeky little $11 million. Now, shortly after the interview, his don't sweat excuse was debunked. Here he is sweating. Prince, I don't sweat Andrew. All right. This was 5 years ago in r/Epstein. 5 years ago. Prince, I don't sweat Andrew. What an effing joke it is. I don't sweat. Did anybody seriously believe that? Lizards don't sweat. I bet he's sweating now. God, he's so sexy, said no one ever. There's no way to prove that's his sweat. That could have been anyone's sweat. That could have been anyone's sweat. He couldn't sweat. Back then, this was a different day. He had recovered from his anti-sweating disease. Okay. Now, interestingly enough, on April the 1st, 2025, that's when Andrew's most prominent accuser, Virginia Giuffre, basically posted to Instagram claiming that she had been in a serious accident. Okay. She was just hit by a bus and has 4 days left to live. Now, I honestly am pressing doubt on this one. Okay. She was apparently hit by a bus, went into kidney renal failure, and doctors gave her 4 days to live. It's a shame that she's going to die without ever getting justice. She deserved much better, and America has failed her. She said, this year has been the worst year to start a new year. This year has been the worst start. This year has been the worst start to a new year, but I won't bore anyone with the details. But I think it's important to note that when a school bus driver comes at you driving 110 kilometers as we were slowing for a turn, that no matter what your car is made of, it might as well be a tin can. I've gone into kidney renal failure. They've given me 4 days to live, transferring me to a specialist hospital in urology. I'm ready to go, but just not until I see my babies one last time. But you know what they say about wishes? Shit in one hand and wish in the other, and I guarantee it's still going to be shit at the end of the day. Thank you all for being the wonderful people of the world, and thank you for being a great part of my life. God bless you all, Virginia. It's hard to believe. It's hard to believe. Just everybody just accidentally dies around when these allegations get aired out. Right. Says what? So she's not in the ICU or on oxygen and posted this herself. They're transferring her to urology for renal kidney failure, which she will need dialysis or a kidney, but it doesn't mean death. What the F? I only have 4 days to live. I'm thinking she's on some heavy painkillers. Something is not lining up here. Something's not lining up. I followed her Instagram for a while. Just a few days ago, she said her kids were taken from her for being kept from her. I think she was having a lot of family issues, but I wonder why her kids were being kept. It's a sad way to go out. She's still only 41. Hopefully it isn't true, but I think it is. In ICU, but still has her jewelry on. Professional hair and makeup artist here, including experience in makeup FX. That much bruising with almost zero swelling is awfully suspicious, especially in the eye area. That eye should be swollen shut with that much bruising and renal failure, fluids staying in the body longer. To me, it literally looks like AI or absolutely correct to both of us. They said it. They said it. The most suspicious part is police have no records of a serious accident within that time frame. She describes her car basically becoming a tin can, which would suggest it was written off, and it involved a school bus. There would absolutely be records of such an event, but there are none. Look at her eyes too, lifeless. Her eyes look dead. People saying, hey man. My dad was in ESRD needing dialysis. He had a very specific look. All do. She does not. He had a CVC, was very swollen all over, did say some really crazy stuff, but he would have been able to do all this. I'm a call BS on this one. One can be in renal failure and live. Shocked she had no dialysis chest port if she's so ill. No CRRT. Odd. Odd. Doctors never specifically tell people you have 4 days left. Surprised anyone made it past that part. She isn't even hooked up to anything. 4 days, yeah, okay. I think that if she was in such a high-impact accident, why is she seemingly stable and lucid, but not receiving urgent care for her internal injuries? But honestly, who knows? Maybe this was right before she was rushed into surgery or another specialist. You mean to tell me that a bus crashed into her, caused so much damage, she's in renal failure, and she's awake and coherent enough to post that she's got 4 days left to live? This lady looks already dead in this picture, creeping me right out. Quite odd. No hemodialysis. Peritoneal dialysis, no CRRT, no AV fistula, or perm cath line, no attempt to find a donor, and just possible death in 4 days in 2025. Unless her kidneys were macerated or aorta and or vena cava transected, someone is lying. This makes no medical sense. Everything about this looks fake, from photo looking like a poor attempt at Photoshop by someone with zero medical trauma knowledge to a school bus going 110 kilometers an hour. Even the message she supposedly wrote doesn't sound like something someone with 2 days left to live would say. Hey, man. Where can I find out anything she's ever said in terms of speaking out against them? Apparently she made a suspicious post a few days before this. I bet this has been deleted. She made some kind of Alice in Wonderland post. My beautiful babies have no clue how much I love them. They're being poisoned with lies. I miss them very much. I've been through hell and back in my 41 years. It's hurting me more than anything else. Hurt me, abuse me, but don't take my babies. My heart is shattered. This is the post. Do you love me? Alice asked. No, I don't love you, replied the White Rabbit. Alice frowned and clasped her hands together as she did whenever she felt hurt. See, replied the White Rabbit. Now you're going to start asking yourself what makes you so imperfect and what you did wrong so that I can't love you at least a little. You know, that's why I can't love you. You will not always be loved, Alice. There will be days when others will be tired and bored with life, will have their heads in the clouds and will hurt you. Because people are like that, they somehow always end up hurting each other's feelings, whether through carelessness, misunderstanding, or conflicts with themselves. If you don't love yourself at least a little, if you don't create an armor of self-love and happiness around your heart, the feeble annoyances caused by others will become lethal and destroy you. The first time I ever saw you make a pact with yourself, I will avoid loving you until you learn to love yourself, from Alice in Wonderland. He was saying she died with a lot of secrets. Now, long story short, she's already dead. Someone else is writing this post to set up public expectations so that when she dies in 4 days, no one will question it. And everyone says she thinks she's already passed away. Okay. Now, interestingly enough, okay, the Western Australia police would quickly dispute the severity of the claim, stating that they had a report of a minor crash between a school bus and a car with no reported injuries. Look at this.
Australia police explained they know of a minor crash between a school bus and a car that was reported by the bus driver the following day, but there were no reported injuries to them as a result of the crash. Here's what the officers have said.
I do know there was an accident on the 24th of March. It was a bus with another vehicle.
And was there any passengers on the bus at the time? Are you aware?
I'm not aware of passengers on the bus, but certainly the bus driver reported it as he was required to do and in the right time frames. And I'm advised there was about $2,000 damage in the vehicle. Not aware of any injuries.
Now, separately, a spokesperson...
Right. Is it just me, or is something not adding up? She's not in hospital and it wasn't a serious crash. Something stinks to high heavens. The school bus driver reported the crash the following day. That detail alone is enough to make this BS stink. No medical professional would tell you the exact number of days you have to live. Suspicious. The whole thing is suspicious, all right? Why are the bruises brown if they've already gone through the red, blue, and yellow, green stages? I know what a car accident looks like. That woman was beaten by someone. The most told her to say she was involved in a car crash. I'm not touching this with a barge pole until more information comes out. Not wearing a hospital gown and wearing a necklace. Strange. I think it's cap. Now, tragically, Virginia Giuffre would be reported dead. Just basically, okay. Look, some of this stuff's actually scary, right? Virginia Giuffre. Now what's really crazy, right? We was talking about her having a car accident. That was at the start of April. She had 4 days to live. She apparently lived. Okay. She apparently lived. And then it says she denied being suicidal and then killed herself years later. And apparently she actually did. She previously claimed she would never do that. And then they're saying that that's what happened. She was found dead by S-word on Friday, years after she claimed she would never hurt herself. Giuffre, who was an outspoken whistleblower, accused the late Jeffrey Epstein and Prince Andrew of sexual abuse, made the chilling claim in a resurfaced tweet from 2019. I'm making it publicly known that in no way, shape, or form am I have made this known to my therapist and general practitioner. If something happens to me in the sake of my family, do not let this go away and help me to protect them. Too many evil people want to see me quieted. That post from the hospital, it sounded like she wanted to live. She wrote, I'm making it publicly known that in no... Oh, I already do that. All right. Giuffre shared the message in reply to another user's tweet who alleged the FBI will kill her to protect the ultra-rich and well-connected. The S assault survivor, an advocate, was found unresponsive by police officers at her near Gabby home on Friday. The Western Australia Police Force told TMZ life-saving measures were enacted, but she could not be revived. Her family confirmed her self-inflicted D in a statement. She had Friday and celebrated her as a fierce warrior in the fight against S abuse and S trafficking. She made headlines in the weeks before her death when she shared images of her heavily bruised face on Instagram, saying she had 4 days to live and was in renal failure after a school bus rammed into her vehicle. Just days later, she claimed her estranged husband had been physically abusing her for years. She's survived by 3 children. Bro. Insane. Now, meanwhile, okay, a few months after that, in October of 2025, that's when Prince Andrew, the heat would actually finally catch up with him. He would definitely be sweating one out for sure, as he was stripped of his remaining royal titles, and it was discovered that he'd previously hired someone to dig up dirt on Virginia Giuffre.
London police say they are investigating allegations that Prince Andrew asked a former bodyguard to dig up damaging information about the woman who accused him of sexual assault. Media reports say that in 2011, the prince gave Virginia Giuffre's birth date and social security number to a London police officer. Giuffre, who took her own life earlier this year, said the prince assaulted her when she was 17 years old. On Friday, Prince Andrew gave up the royal title Duke of York following years of controversy over his friendship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
So, he was cooked. You know, that's what little justice that you could really look for in this situation. The newest batch of emails, though, would come out in January 2026, and files would contain further allegations, including claims that the former prince was involved in other heinous acts. And so, look, I can't verify the authenticity of this, but they're saying Prince Andrew allegedly tortured, trafficked model and had her murdered. So this was apparently a tip that was sent. And again, can't vouch for the authenticity of this, can't vouch for the genuine, look. Okay, we don't know. But this is basically emails that were sent back and forth, an anonymous tip that was made. Back in the 90s, Ghislaine Maxwell recruited a girl for a modeling career. Instead of modeling, she was sold as a slave for the S word and tortured. Prince Andrew was an accessory to her death as he tortured her and me to force her murder. I need to get a passport to identify her. I will need someone to contact the passport office to get an expedited passport, text, redacted number. He replied, he said he called me, wanting me to give him a secure email address. He's from blank. The number that came up is blank. And they said, Wendy, no problem at all to include me on Epstein Maxwell notifications going forward, but I wanted to let you know that because of my unit move, the office has transitioned me off the case and added blank. So if you wouldn't mind including her on any notifications, please, thank you. And I hope you're doing all right these days, given all the circumstances. It is absolutely crazy. Okay. Now, people are saying they need to release everything unredacted. Obviously, the government is protecting pre-DFs and killers at this point. It says the redactions are slop city on this one. Malicious compliance. People saying from Brian Miller, like the guy that killed people. Wait, what? Wait, what? From Brian, where's that? From Brian Miller. Is Brian Miller killed? Wait, what? Oh my God, give me a break, man. Okay, this is apparently some kind of, oh my God. Brian Patrick Miller, known as the Zombie Hunter or Canal Killer, is an American man convicted of murdering 2 women along canals in Phoenix, Arizona during the early 1990s. He evaded justice for more than 20 years until his arrest in 2015, when DNA evidence and forensic genealogy linked him to the cold cases. And in 2023, he was found guilty on multiple charges and sentenced to death. Wild. Now, look, I don't know if this is the same person, but they're saying that that was a Brian Miller. Okay, that could be a common name. People are saying they can't find the document on the Justice Department website. What am I supposed to type in? And they did find it in the end. It's wild how many people have been doing this since the 90s, and so many people knew about it, but they kept living their life seemingly unworried for long. And then these are a whole bunch of Prince Andrew related things. Okay, multiple people bring some. Epstein demanding to meet Andrew while bringing multiple people to add some life. FBI briefing a victim about a victim that was battered by Andrew. This is crazy. Oh, this is crazy. This is actually wild. Man. Epstein saying he has a girl for him. Oh my God. Is this them? This is them emailing back and forth to the Duke. Oh my God. Of course, I'm in Geneva. I would like to say, will she be bringing a message from you? Please give her my contact details to get in touch. His Royal Highness, the Duke of York, KG. Any other information about her that might be useful to know? Like, what have you told her about me? Have you given her my email as well? From Andrew. That was quick. How are you? Good to be free. Good to be free. Good to be out of jail. Good to be out of jail. So many opportunities I'm frustratingly not allowed to participate in, and so many And so many that are obvious but can't get anyone to fire on. Must come and see you sometime soon. Good God. Good Lord. Prince Andrew refusing to cooperate in the investigation with the Justice Department. Doesn't want to... This is crazy. This is crazy. There's a lot here. There's quite a lot here, so I'm not going to get into this, okay? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to close out this video talking about a couple of other interesting points, because in addition to that, all right, all the files and emails that implicated Prince Andrew with all of these very, very messed up things, okay? It would be his former wife, okay, the Duchess of York, Fergie as she's known, all right? They remained close even though they got divorced in 1993, and she unfortunately is getting dragged into this debacle too.
I'm at your service. Just marry me. This is just one of the exchanges that Sky News believes that Sarah Ferguson had with the disgraced paedophile Giuffre Epstein.
I've been having a look through all of those latest communications, and here's what we find out. Now, the first emails that we see are from 2009, and why that is interesting is because it was only in 2008 that Giuffre Epstein was convicted of those paedophile charges, one of prostitution and one of prostitution of someone under the age of 18. And yet the email correspondence between him and Sarah Ferguson continued after his conviction. The first email we'll show you is from 2009, where Fergie is mentioned in it. She sent Epstein this email saying, "You are a legend and I am so proud of you."
And again, in 2010, there's an email that Sky News believes is from Fergie to Epstein that reads, "I really don't have the words to describe my love, gratitude for your generosity and kindness. Kiss, kiss. I'm at your service. Just marry me."
Then there is one from Epstein to Ferg, in which he writes, "Give Andrew a thank you. He was a real prince."
There are also several emails that seem to relate to Sarah Ferguson having some financial problems. In this one to Epstein, the email reads, "Getting financials for Fergie is painful. Incredible mess. I'm on it, but for sure completeness will always remain questionable."
You can also see that Epstein was really important to her in terms of connecting her to really influential people. In one email that's from February 2010, Fergie copies in A, emailing Epstein, and it shows kind of a list of various networking and business deals that she's hoping to get done. In that email, she also writes, "A, I was introduced to David Stern by Giuffre. He came to Royal Lodge for dinner." But you can also see that Epstein was potentially trying to get Fergie to publicly support him. In this email that he sent to his lawyers, he said, "I think that Fergie can now say I'm not a pedo. She was duped into believing false stories by civil plaintiffs' attorneys from Florida." Now, you've got to point out that actually it was only last year that Sarah Ferguson, when one of these emails hit one of the newspapers, came out and said she wanted nothing to do with Giuffre Epstein, and also that she had to be nice to him because he was blackmailing her. But ultimately, what this new release of files does is gives us a whole new level of insight in terms of that relationship between Sarah Ferguson and Giuffre Epstein, how it developed over the years, but also how it continued well after his conviction.
Now, what's interesting, it's got 16,000 likes, 600,000 views, but they've turned the comments off. Sky News, they don't even want you talking about how you feel about this absolute mess. Now, a lot of people on Reddit have been discussing why on earth has Prince Andrew not been arrested. Now, it's obvious, okay, this is on Ask Brits. Why hasn't Andrew been arrested? The evidence against him is pretty damning at this point. Literally makes no sense to not have ordered an investigation about him. It says there was a civil case against him, but it was settled out of court and the accuser was paid off, and now she's deceased. Photos and mentions of him in the files isn't proof that will hold up in court. I wouldn't have thought. Civil case has no bearing on the ability to bring criminal proceedings. It's likely there's just no evidence. Unfortunately, being sleazy with women isn't a criminal offence, but addressing them as women is incorrect, and minimising the damage is what alleged to have happened. Enough for his royal titles to be removed and total public disownment. Okay. No criminal charges brought in the UK yet because the police didn't look at it. The police didn't care. They didn't want to know about it. They didn't care. They didn't want to know. They were on his side. They were looking in. He was giving the social security and her details to the police for them to look into her. All right. People are saying the evidence against him is damning. They're saying, is it? There's not enough for a criminal prosecution, especially not against a member of the royal family. Reddit thinks a photo of someone looking creepy is enough evidence for them to be arrested and charged with the R word. Without someone saying Andrew R-worded me, it won't get very far, I'm afraid, okay? People don't understand how high the standard of evidence is and how corrupt the establishment is. Old man in photos with young girls is not proof of anything illegal. As much as I totally believe he did R-word kids, I know there's not enough evidence as of yet to convict. I'm also aware enough to realize that the word of a woman or girls is not enough to build a case on, even though it should be, and those women will face severe personal and professional repercussions for coming forward. So look, all right, apparently there's not enough evidence. It is what it is. Okay, what's the offense? Something vague about trafficking. Is there evidence for that? They're saying this is it. Just because something feels like it should be illegal doesn't mean it is. There's the issue that the offense has happened some time ago, meaning that something that's illegal now might not have been illegal back then. People are saying, what evidence is that then? As much as I might hate the man, the evidence that exists is the word of somebody who's now dead. So I ask again, and look, listen, a lot of Brits are so cucked by the royal family, they actually want to defend them, okay? It says, you may point to the Epstein files, however, many of the claims that were made over a period of decades were from anonymous sources based in the US and were never verified. I'm not for one moment saying they're false, but you can't arrest somebody, no matter how distasteful and vile they may be, on the word of an anonymous source that was not and cannot be verified decades later or from somebody who's now dead. It is what it is, because there's no evidence against him that would stand up in a court of law. Take the recent photos. At worst, you can say they're a bit weird, but they certainly don't portray anything sexual or illegal. There's a lot of smoke around him, but essentially no fire. What is the crime? As far as I'm aware, the majority of the Epstein cases are just seedy men paying for sex with women of consensual age. It's high-class prostitution, which isn't illegal. What is the crime? Eating a meal? A succulent Chinese meal? You remember this guy? Oh, my God. From my understanding, he can't be charged in the UK for what he did to Virginia. She was over the age of consent, and trafficking wasn't a crime at the time. Because, look, the age of consent in the UK is 16. Like, it's messed up. It's kind of, you know what I'm saying? The UK on some other shit. But basically, he, as far as this goes, I guess he hasn't broken the law. The UK introduced the law introduced in 2003 can't be applied retrospectively. Sex trafficking wasn't even a crime at the time. I didn't even know that. That's crazy. It says Louis wasn't arrested. Ari Kinkor. I don't know what that's all about. I'm sure a lot of people who went to Epi's parties didn't do anything untoward. There is zero evidence against him of doing any wrongdoing. What can he get arrested for? Now, I'm not defending him or saying he hasn't done anything wrong, but you say the evidence is damning. What's the evidence? People saying there's plenty of wrongdoing. It's just that there's no evidence. It's both criminal and within the UK's jurisdiction. Okay, yes, there is wrongdoing, but what is meant from a legal standpoint and evidence to be arrested? Knowing a known PDF and continuing to be friends with them after conviction and meeting them is not acceptable. So yes, it can be classed of wrongdoing. However, it doesn't make him guilty of any crimes by association. There's no explicit evidence. That's what they're saying. And it is what it is. Age of consent is 16. Virginia Giuffre was 17. Let's be real. Nobody in the elite wants to open up the age of consent discussion around royal hookups. Princess Diana was 16. I didn't know that. That's crazy. Pretty sure it's still illegal no matter her age. She was trafficked to him in London. By she, do you mean Giuffre? If she was 16 when she went to London and he did things with Randy Andy, then it's yucky but not illegal. Question is, why is there no inquiry into his role as an official envoy? He was sent out around the world as a government official and used his role to enrich himself and indulge in prostitutes. What he did was creepy and abhorrent. What he's accused of is having S with a girl over the age of 16, which isn't a crime in England, UK. Some involvement in S trafficking, which is probably hard to prove, particularly now the victim is dead. Not that he looked like he was getting charged before that. I'm sure he'd be treated differently if he wasn't who he is, but it's not obvious that he's committed a crime that he would actually get convicted of. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Look. All right. Prince Andrew, Randy Andy, as they call him. Okay, it is a mess. I don't think it could look worse. I don't think anyone other than Jeffrey Epstein himself and Ghislaine Maxwell, I don't know if anyone else looks worse. Andrew looks worse than Bill Gates. Like, he's probably one of the most, you know, there's a lot of pictures of him. There's a lot of him being dragged into this situation. And he just seems like a pervert. So it's really sad. I'm probably going to stop talking about this now. I did record a video about this like 30 minutes ago that got demonetized. So I'm going to try and see if I can get that video back and put that up. If not, I'll put it up just for the members because I don't want to screw up my channel. I've had a lot of problems with things getting demonetized, and it seems like when that happens, just like all my videos stop getting pushed. So I got to be careful. But anyway, thank you for watching this breakdown. I'm going to hopefully move on from the Epstein files for now. If anything else major happens, I will update you guys. I will make another video. But for now, I'm going to start looking into other things, other stories. There's some street stories, there's some crime stories, there's some interesting things that I want to tap in and let you guys know about. So thank you for watching. Thank you for trusting me as your news source. I'll catch you guys in the next video. I'm out of here for now. Peace.